Okay. You're on, Miss Jenna.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Jenna, and I'm 35, and I have 2 children. I'll probably pass my phone around because I like showing them off.
Please do.
My daughter Kiowa was born in the end of 2007 at home with Samsara, and one of her students who has become a very good friend of mine, and we ended up actually graduating together from this class. And it was a pretty amazing experience. Earlier, Samsara was talking about how the student doula and the student midwife were afraid of me. Because there was a lot of discussion about the physical things that happen in birth, but I didn't know I was going to have this whole experience where I went to another place. I basically had to go find my daughter and hold her hand and bring her back, and so whenever they spoke to me, I had to come down through these clouds, and I was like, what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm very, very busy right now.
Why are you bothering
me? And they were like, so they still make fun of me about it, and they're like, oh, you swear a lot in birth. So it's like, I didn't even know I was doing that because I was somewhere else.
You were beautifully intense.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. You were gorgeous.
I basically went somewhere else. I didn't know that was going to happen to me. It was a great experience, and I my whole life I was an artist, and I worked in the arts, which is an incredibly patriarchal system. And so I was a dude. I was trying to outdo the patriarchy. I couldn't build anything. I had to be tougher and stronger and lift more to get paid a little bit less and get a little bit less respect. And so I was really a dude, and I really lived in that system. And giving birth, I was like, oh, no, this is actually where the power is. And not power as in like, but like what I was looking for and I didn't know. So birth really came to me in a strong way. So I decided to take Samsara's class, and Samsara and I actually bonded right away when I called her. I think we spoke for an hour and a half, our first conversation.
Yep.
About, I don't know,
Everything.
And so it was obvious I was going to take the class from her, and it's a tough class. You guys are up for it. It's a lot of work. You really, not only do you need to really follow through with your commitments here, but you really have a lot of self-work to do. This class is going to bring it all up for you. Like this week. It's like, I feel like it's not this isn't the first time I've spoken at one of Samsara's classes, but it's pretty common. You're going to join something like this that is not just a cute doula training where you learn how to rub people's backs, but you're actually learning the whole process and including the politics around it, and it's going to bring up all your stuff just like birth does. And so it's what we get to do is we get to step up to it. We'll have different varying degrees of that, where some weeks it's just going to step over us, and some weeks we're like, I did that. I just showed up for myself, which made it so that I can show up for these women that I want to serve. So, just to say that, like, that's pretty common in this class for your stuff to come up. It definitely did over and over, and Raphael and I, who graduated together, we were in here through women who let the stuff step over them, and they didn't do the work. And really the work it's not just learning about birth, which is incredibly important. It's like when your parts show themselves to you is actually showing up for that, and we have to be a full bowl to serve people. I really believe that I was able to go to the place that I went to meet my daughter's spirit, to bring her down, because I felt completely supported and respected and held, and I knew that they were holding it down, so if something was going on, they were going to be like, whoa, now's the time to transport. I knew that I had complete faith in the people in the room with me, that they were looking out for me, and that was the only way I was able to go as deep as I went. And that's the commitment that we make to our moms, whether you love them or you like them or you are just putting up with them, because you're not going to love all of them. until afterwards, and then you love all of them. Even the ones that drive you crazy and keep you up at night, you end up loving them. But that's the commitment that you make. And so really, I guess that's one thing that I want to say is that it really drives me crazy when I hear doulas half-assing it. Because you're making a commitment to someone's experience, and it's an important experience, and it can feed the way that their parental life can go. It's really important. So if I could say that to every single doula out there, I would. This is important. It's one of the most important things, and it is a political act, even, to give women power that way, and that is your job. And to give their partners power, because men are really trying to show up, and they're really inventing it, kind of, for themselves. There's not a lot of support around what men are trying to do. And female partners are trying to figure out how that role goes. So there's, our way of being activists in birth is to show up for these folks and help them find their strength and their power. And that's what really attracts me to this work. I'm a pretty self-centered person. So doula work is great for me because there's no room for that. So it's a practice for me to be like I'll be there, hour 6, and I'll be like, oh, here's me. Oh, I don't want to be here anymore, or this is hard, or God, that's driving me crazy. And I'll be like, oh wait, that's my stuff. Right, so I don't have to deal with that right now. I got to put that somewhere else, and I got to show up for these people because I made this commitment to them. So it's actually a great practice for me also. So, finding out how it works for you is good. It might not be that way for you. So then after a while I went to a birth, and I just couldn't. I went to this one birth that was really, really intense, and the couple was a very traumatized couple. Both had survived some really intense abuse, and the midwife that was with them really didn't show up for them, and it was pretty traumatic, and we ended up transferring. Everything was great. It was a vaginal birth in terms of that, but in terms of the emotional safety that the people experienced was not good, and it was really hard to go through, and that was a point where I was like, God, I need to be primary. So I decided to go to midwifery school, and then I got pregnant, and I was like, I'm just going to keep going, and it didn't work for the way that I wanted to parent, because I was apprenticing, so I was seeing clients during the day, and then I had my kids during the night, and being at births was really challenging when I had a nursing little boy on me, and it was just got to the point where it was actually affecting my health, so I had to postpone it. I will go back when my children don't want to hang out with me.
Like that ever happens, really.
Teenage years, don't mind.
They want you even more.
25, they start cutting it out.
All right. Okay. So yeah.
So you're gonna have to come back a little earlier, anyway. Is what we're trying to say to you.
Anyways, when they need me less.
There you go.
There you go. I will go back, because even now as a doula, I see that I am a midwife pretending to be a doula.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also something to kind of regulate. I was at a birth recently where I wanted to just take the nurse's hand away and be like, do you want me to do this, honey? Because I'm not scared right now. But it's illegal, so.
Small little fact. Yeah.
Regulating your nurses without them knowing they're being regulated is a great skill to have.
Very much so.
And all the people in the room. It's like you get to be the magical energy fairy, but nobody knows it. So
that's the skill. That's the art of being a doula in the hospital.
It is, and learning how to morph into the wall and disappear so that they say the things that you need to hear, not knowing you're listening, and then come back out and show your presence when they need to know there's a guardian angel in the room. There's a lot of self-work that goes into being able to put the ego aside so you can do the work you need to do, which has been a big work for me. I'm a triple Aries, so that's been great work for me. Wow. So then, while I was an apprentice, I had my son at home, and it was really funny because the midwives didn't tell me their plan for it, which was they weren't going to touch me. I was just going to deliver my own baby, which was amazing.
It's a great plan for you, girl.
Yeah.
Great plan.
I'm sitting in the bathtub and I'm like, well, I'm crowning. And she's like, And I was like, no, it's stretching. I think I need some support. So she reaches down and holds my perineum, and then she puts my hand there. So then I'm holding my own perineum, and I'm like, I'm still stretching. She's like, okay. And then my son's head and his chest and his abdomen were all the same diameter, so I was crowning forever. Wow. And I'm like, I'm still stretching. And so he came out, and
it's great.
and I pulled him up, and I got a nice big old handful of testicles, and I was like, oh,
yay!
it's a boy.
I have a son! Yay!
And it was a great experience, and like afterwards I was like, you didn't do anything. She's like, yeah, no, you had it. And I was like, what? You didn't tell me. She's like, no, that was always the plan. You were just going to deliver your own baby. And it was great. It was great that she didn't tell me in a way, too, because I would have overthought it. And it was really wonderful. And my husband, basically, all he ever said to anyone for the rest of the week is, my wife is a badass. That was his Facebook post. She's like, my wife is a badass. And my daughter was there, and she was really, really sweet. She did childbirth ed with me, and my doula, who was my best friend, her daughter was there, and I did childbirth ed with them, and they were very, very sweet. They got to have a 3 a.m. play date, which was very exciting, and then every once in a while they come and rub my back and take care of me. And one of the moments that I just always have to share about that birth is Kiowa learned that she's supposed to tell me I'm doing a good job. So she goes, oh, you're doing a good job, Mama. And I'm pushing, and she goes, Mama, I said you're doing a good job. And I remember thinking, like, I have to parent right now? Well, I looked up, and it's all dark, but it's on a video where I go, thank you, baby.
Outstanding.
And just as an example of, like, the capacities, like, you can push out a baby and parent.
Right. There you go.
So now, and then I took a year off just to be with my son from birth because I asked him to come, and I thought it was respectful to not leave him for that first year.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I've been back at birth. It's going slower, which is nice because I do have 2 children. But it's really, every birth is just, I could never give it up. It's like looking into the face of God every single time. And my favorite moment is watching the partner. Mama, Mama's growing the baby. She knows that it's less abstract for her, but when the partner, it becomes a reality instead of this abstract theory.
Mm-hmm.
I love that moment. I think that makes me cry every time.
Yeah, I love watching men become daddies. That's my favorite part of the business also. It really is. Or, I've seen some female partners really be like, whoa, I did not know that. Mm-hmm.
I heard what you were saying, but I didn't know it in the way that I know it right now looking at this.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. I spend a lot of time with my childbirth prep, with my clients and with my classes, working with a partner. Because when I've had 3 births where the partner did not show up and none of those people are together. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like sometimes it's like if the partner felt more resourced, that they would be able to show up in a way. So just making sure that they have the resources. I spent a lot of time trying to give the partner tools, how to touch Mama, how to talk to Mama, how to not talk to Mama, how to not touch Mama, how to take care of themselves in the moment, how to ask for help, things like that. So that's really important to me. I love doing childbirth ed. I shadowed Samsara for a long time, and then she slowly kind of started being like, oh, can you cover this class? And can you cover that class? And I just really love childbirth education. I think it's a huge step towards giving people an empowered experience. Whether they believe, I've had clients who are like, I actually have no problem with an epidural. And I was like, cool, let me give you the information behind that. And if you still have that stance, like, you don't have to have the same belief system I have, but I really feel strongly that you need to know all the information that you're making a decision about to be empowered in your choices. So that's a big thing for me. And I have a mama due the beginning of December, which is really sweet. She's actually an IVF client, so I'm praying she's doing everything great, hoping that she will not be induced. Sometimes IVF mamas have a hard time starting labor, but I'm really feeling that she's putting a lot of energy towards nature doing that. And then I have a return client who I had when I was here.
Yeah.
She's one of my ILSP moms.
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. I talked about her in therapy when I was working with her before. she's
our teen moms take a lot of therapy time.
But she's
no. But she's actually doing great. It was really sweet. I had a dream 2 years ago that she called me. And she called me again. So I always knew she was coming back. So it was really great. So I think she's due, she still hasn't gotten her due date straight, but I think she's due in June. So that's nice. And I have an interview for a woman in March. And I think that's nice pacing for me right now. It's much slower than I was doing before, but with 2 kids, that's so. I'm also working, I do belly casting, and I'm working on building my studio in my backyard where I'll be teaching classes, art classes, and having belly casting things and doing birthday parties and stuff.
Cool.
So that when I feel like there are times when doula work for me is not doable, so that I have a balance of things for income. I have done where doula work is my income, and that can get really stressful, and I'm looking to be in a place where I can do doula work just because I'm called to do it, and it doesn't have to be like a stressful income thing where I'm making choices based on that rather than like my true intuition. And I'm here now. I don't think I should have been there then. I think I had to go through all that to get here. That's my long introduction.
That's a great introduction. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to open it up for other folks to ask you questions.
Okay.
So you have completely completed the class. You're certified birth and postpartum doula as well as childbirth educator, yeah? So how'd you do that? How was it to do that?
It's hard. You guys have signed up for a tougher course. This is definitely a pre-midwife course. And Samsara is tough. And
tell on me. Go ahead. That's why you're here.
You'd be crazy sometimes. There was definitely times where I was like, oh, the Pisces. Pisces, premenopausal during retrograde.
It was ugly.
But
it was beautiful.
But I didn't rest on what she was doing. I just would be like, okay, things are fuzzy out there. What can I be clear about? And what can I get out of the way? And you got to do the reading. I mean, the reading is there. It's a lot, but the reading is there for a reason. I mean, I more than once had clients where I read something, and then like the next week, my client had a retained placenta, and I had to talk her and her partner through her having a midwife's hand scraping her uterus. And thank God I had read that, learned about that, because I was able to not freak out, and I was able to show up for them. So do the reading. Even if your path is to stay with a doula, the more you understand about what's going on, the more you can show up for your clients. The taking notes can be really, really hard in the moment, but it is useful.
Taking notes during the birth?
During everything. During all of it. I, with my own practice, have, like, I'm a little looser with it for myself now, but I appreciate the discipline of it in the beginning. And, like, for my return ILSP mom, I'm back to taking notes again, because she is someone who needs notes. I have some nice, easygoing clients that don't have a whole lot of issues, like, you know, I had a mom who's her second home birth, and she's a doula and everything, and I didn't take a whole lot of notes for her except for during the birth, so I can write her birth story, because I think it's a beautiful thing to do. I'm still waiting for mine.
We'll talk about that. That's right.
You know, just following through on everything, doing the report. I don't know if you're still requiring the report on a subject.
Absolutely.
That was really hard to do until I had a subject that I experienced myself. So I ended up doing mine on retained placentas, and I did a whole research around retained placentas and all the reasons. So I was like, oh, I'll do retained placenta, but then it was like, you know, placenta accreta, plus, you know, like all the different accreta, all the different ways or reasons that could happen, and so then it ended up being a much bigger report. But that gave me a lot more information. Yeah, you just gotta stick with it, even when you're feeling overwhelmed, or she's driving you crazy, or your client's driving you crazy, or you're driving yourself crazy. You just have to keep going.
So how did you do that? Like, you had all this reading, and you had a baby. This was before baby number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get all those books read? Was there something magical that you could share?
Well, I had a great support system.
Mm-hmm.
I have an amazing support system. I have my family who really believe in what I'm doing, and I also have my neighborhood community who help me with my children. I don't think I could do birth work without that as a mother. Like, you know, even my husband's work, he stayed home from work to watch the kid watch Iowa, you know, and he's not in a business that's like, oh yeah, sure, just stay home and work from home, but he would work it. I've also had a lot of babies that came on the weekends, which has been really handy.
They're very helpful.
Yeah. But the support system, being able to say, hey, you know, I did a birth last night and I need to sleep today. Can you take my kids? And then reading, waiting in a waiting room, bringing my books with me everywhere so I could read here and there. Mm-hmm. And being obsessed with the subject also helped a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I was always talking about it and always looking it up. I still read a lot about it. The reading helped me open my mind and my heart about the variations of what is the right birth for different people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me open it up to other people's questions. Anything you'd like to ask of Jenna while she's here?
I have a question in the corner back here. There were 2 terms that you mentioned about the type of women you were working with. It was like a V, I don't remember what it was. IV? Yeah, something like that. I don't remember what it was. I was trying to remember it in my brain. But you're talking about women that you were working with.
Oh, ILSP?
Yes, and there was another one also.
IVF. Okay. ILSP was...
This is the Independent Living Skills Program. We take care of teen moms in this practice. So the moms are referred to us through that program.
They were mostly young women who aged out of foster care, so they never returned to their families. Right. 18, and then they were on their own, so a lot of them didn't have support. A lot of them hadn't seen a whole lot of good choices being made in their lives. Some of them needed a lot of help on how to go grocery shopping. You know, some basic life skills. A lot of them have had a lot, just trauma upon trauma upon trauma, and they just needed to learn how to trust someone enough to let them be in the room. Mm-hmm. Especially as a white woman, and a lot of the women that we work with are women of color, and so being able to learn how to acknowledge and track my own privilege so that I can show up in the room in a way that was appropriate and loving, and learning even to have conversations about that.
What might that look like, Jenna?
Well, I mean, she wasn't an ILSP mom, but I did have one mom just be like, they were African American couple, and they were like, so how do you, you're gonna work with black folks? How are you gonna do that? I was just like, oh, she remembers her question being about how I was gonna manage her mother. I was just like, I remember the conversation being very much like, she was like, what, how are you going to work with black folks? And I was just like, I am open to learning. I have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to learn. And I'm willing to do the work, and I'm willing to hear what you have to say and make changes, and I'm willing to be wrong. And, I'm willing, is basically, and she had not wanted any white people at her birth, but we are still very, very good friends now, which is very gratifying. Also, it means that I did a good job being willing. She's a tough lady. She's a strong lady.
What do you think that you did that allowed that to happen, for a mama to go from not wanting any white people at her birth to you two being friends?
It's a lot of listening. And, when I listen, being like, when things like, guilt or feeling defensive come up, being able to be like, okay, there's my stuff, and this isn't actually for her to process. This is for me to track, and it is my job to listen, because really I felt like, well, people of color have had to listen a lot, so it's my turn to listen, mostly.
Jenna. My student, Jenna.
I'm also married to a man of color, and I'm raising 2 mixed race children.
It helps.
So I take this pretty seriously in terms of trying to, and I come from, one side of my family is like pretty poor white farming family from the East Coast, and then my dad's side family is pretty privileged. So try and my dad was a civil rights activist, actually, so I already had a little, he was a civil rights activist? Civil rights activist. Yeah, he got arrested and went on buses, and I grew up hearing about this, and but I also grew up in Marin, so just had a lot of material to work with, actually. But really feeling willing, and we've had some tough conversations in here where I was the only white woman in the room, and I got to be told to be quiet and listen, and I did. And, listen, and not assume that I know at all what somebody else's experience is like. I have no idea what it's like to walk around the world without privilege. I have no idea what it's like. So I have to really use my empathy to understand in that way. And that works. That's really important for the ILSP moms, because a lot of the young women of color out of these teen moms, their experience of white people is these authoritarian caseworker type people that are cold and maybe making choices for them that would not be what they would make, the choices they would make. So really trying to bridge a gap in trust.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Any other questions?
Oh, IVF mom.
IVF.
In vitro fertilization.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we don't start the beginning process of pregnancy in our bodies are, it's a sequence of systems. And so sometimes our bodies don't recognize, they'll still do all the things for pregnancy, but because the beginning of the sequence wasn't started in our body, sometimes it's hard for labor to start. Okay. They're doing things with IVF now that it's getting easier for women to start labor on their own. I've been to several. I don't know if it's the hormones that they use or how early they put the eggs in, or the fertilized eggs in, or how it is, but I've been to several IVF births where mama started on her own now. So.
How long ago did you take and complete the class? Course?
3 years?
3 years ago?
2-3 years ago? That you completed it?
That I completed it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years.
We had a party and everything.
It was before I was pregnant. So it was at least 3 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking 3 years ago.
Yeah. We had a little party at Secret Birthday.
We had a big party with friends and relations and everything.
Yeah. It was cool.
Any other questions? So I'm going to get ready to turn off the little recordy thing, my beautiful new iPad mini. But before I do that, I want to say how personally proud I am of you and how much I love you. And how you and Raphael I hold up as the perfect examples of the women that I want to put out in the world as birth workers. And to listen to your process and to see you doing what you do in the world, being a mom and a wife and a birth worker, I'm incredibly proud. And I made a promise to the goddess that I'd leave 1,000 midwives behind me when I go on to the happy hunting ground. And I'm glad that you are one of them.